All right, let's dive into a topic that honestly feels a little bit like magic, but I promise you it's pure RF engineering. We're talking about circular polarization. And look, for anyone working with radio frequencies, this isn't just some neat trick, it's an absolutely essential tool for building rock-solid systems. Now, just so you know, what we're covering today is part 10 of a much bigger 20-part series. It's all based on this incredibly detailed report from the RFI detectives over at Virtualization Options LLC. So if you're an RF tech or engineer, stick around, you're in exactly the right spot. So let me just start by asking a question. What if you could make those annoying, unwanted signal reflections just disappear? I know it sounds way too good to be true, right? But that's the core problem that circular polarization solves, and it does it so elegantly. But to really appreciate the solution, we've got to dig into the problem itself. And that's signal reflection, or as I'm sure many of you know it, the constant headache of multipath interference. I mean, just look at a place like this, a dense urban canyon. You're in a constant battle. Doesn't matter if it's satellite communications or radar, your own signals are bouncing off every single surface. And that creates noise, clutter, and it messes with the data you actually care about. And the price for getting this wrong? It's huge. A complete polarization mismatch between your transmitter and your receiver can cause a massive signal loss. Yeah, theoretically it's infinite, but in the real world, we're talking a 20 to 40 dB hit. That is more than enough to completely kill your communications link. Game over. Okay, so this is where things get interesting. This is where we stop thinking of polarization as just some property of a wave, and we start using it as an engineered solution. And that solution, my friends, is circular. So what is it exactly? Well, unlike your standard linear polarization, where the electric field is just going up and down or side to side, with a circularly polarized wave, the electric field vector is literally rotating. It's traveling in this corkscrew pattern. And that rotation is what gives it this unique, almost magical property. And when you put them side by side like this, it's pretty revealing. We all know vertical and horizontal linear polarization, right? That's for things like mobile phones and TV. But look where circular polarization lives. GPS, satellite, radar. These are systems where precision and rejecting interference are absolutely mission critical. Okay, here it is, the big reveal. Let's look at the specific mechanism that makes right-hand circularly polarized, or RHCP, signals so incredibly useful for fighting those reflections. I like to call it the reversal trick. Let me walk you through this, step by step. 1. Your antenna sends out a right-hand circularly polarized signal. 2. That signal hits a building, the ground, doesn't matter, and it reflects. 3. And here's the magic. The reflection actually reverses the signal's handedness, turning it into a left-hand circularly polarized signal. And 4. Your original RHCP antenna is now completely blind to this reflected LHCP wave. The reflection has, for all intents and purposes, been erased. And hey, don't just take my word for it. This isn't some rule of thumb. It's a fundamental property of physics, stated right here in the RFI detectives report. This one sentence is the foundation for some of the most advanced RF systems we use every single day. The key takeaway is simple. Reflection equals reversal. So, let's take this out of the textbook and see how this all comes together in the real world. I mean, knowing the theory is great, but seeing where this clever bit of physics gets put to work, that's where it really clicks. Think about it for a second. GPS signals, they're incredibly weak by the time they get to us. They absolutely cannot afford to compete with reflections bouncing off the ground. Same thing goes for those critical satellite links. And for radar, this trick is exactly how a system tells the difference between a real target and all the clutter of its own energy bouncing off the terrain. And this is what completes the system. By transmitting and receiving with the same polarization, so RHCP to RHCP, you've basically built a filter. You're telling your receiver, hey, only listen for the direct RHCP signal and just ignore all of those reversed LHCP reflections. It is such an elegant way to boost your signal-to-noise ratio. So what does this all mean for you? The engineer or the technician out in the field? It means that understanding and properly applying polarization isn't just an academic exercise. It is a real professional edge. And here's the deal, the core trade-off. On one side, you get this phenomenal ability to reject reflections and cut down on multipath fading, but the price you pay is strict discipline. Your transmit and receive antennas have to be matched, because if they're not, you are staring down that massive 20 to 40 dB loss we talked about earlier. And I really want to end on this fantastic quote from the source material, a zero-cost performance optimization. That just says it all, doesn't it? Simply making sure your antennas are correctly polarized costs you nothing in new hardware, but it can give you more performance than slapping on an expensive amplifier. It's the smartest, most efficient gain you can possibly get.
So I'm going to leave you with this question to chew on. Now that you get the reversal trick and the real power of circular polarization, I want you to take a look at the systems you work on. Where is multipath giving you a headache? And could this elegant little piece of physics be the exact solution you've been looking for?